Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League Match Day. 2 games on Tuesday. We have this live video to analyze all the games on Tuesday with Tom Rennie. Hello, Tom, with Ronan Murphy. So, guys, stay with us. We have some good games, some other not that good, I have to be honest, but still we are going to give you the best tips we can find in these games. Tell me also your tips, your comments for those games, and of course, press the like, subscribe. Let's go on now with the show. First one, we have 2 early kickoffs. First stop is in Bergamo, Atalanta, Bruges. We have Atalanta as favorites, but be careful. We saw this game last season and Bruges won both games. The Belgian team already surprised us with a big win against Monaco, 4-1. And Atalanta is work in progress with the new manager, with 𝗀𝗏𝗏. They drew with the Juventus at the weekend. But actually, at home, they have a pretty bad record in Europe, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to assess Atalanta still, right? We're in like late September, and we've gone after the Gasperini is gone, and I've never been a big fan of Ivan Juric, mainly because I saw him at Southampton, and he looked like a pitiful drowned rat every weekend. So, like, I still don't know what to expect. Like, I didn't see the game at the weekend against Juve, but I did watch the victory over Torino, the highlights of that the previous week, where I thought offensively they were surprisingly impressive. The walloping against PSG in the Champions League, I don't really think we can read too much into that. So, look, I think with Atalanta, they are a team who are still trying to find themselves. It's a manager still trying to find his best formation. There are players who, if he's going to stay for a long time, are going to be Ivan Juric players. There are players who are probably going to move on. I mean, we're going to have a conversation again about injured players returning, what happened to Ademola Lookman, like all that sort of stuff, right? Are we ever going to see 𝐿𝐿𝐴 again? All those conversations continue to bubble around Atalanta. But look, I think there is definitely people in there who can move around midfield. They still have Kairat, they still have Giroud, and they still have up and down workers in this team. My only question would be, where's the quality? I've seen a lot of Sulemana. I think he's a kind of firecracker player, but I'm not too sure he's got the quality to play Champions League football. So, look, I think games like this tend to be quite tight. I think Club Brugge games going through their Champions League history and their start of the season tend to be quite tight. So, I think this is the first one of games that you suggested maybe we shouldn't be watching in full. If you are going to bet on it, I would absolutely consider going for a quite tight scoreline. I picked up the draw at 4.1. I think that's an incredible a possibility there for people to make some money. I think it screams draw. It screams 1-1. It screams not a great deal going on. Drawn both teams to score was 4.5 this morning. I think that's probably changed this afternoon. Maybe Ronan's got some better views on Club Brugge than I have, but I don't see much here beyond 2 teams cancelling each other out in a very similar sort of setup.
Well, no one here is a big fan of Ivan Juric. We tend to criticize him a lot in our Serie A video, apart from his agent. He must have a really good agent. Ronan, would you agree?
𝐿𝐿𝐴 and him must share an agent. It seems to be getting promoted upwards all the time. Yeah, seems to be getting into good jobs and ending up at good clubs. But yeah, Tom said that some of these Atalanta players don't look like they're cut out for the Champions League, or maybe don't look like Champions League players. But you have to consider some of these teams that you play in the Champions League are Club Brugge or Kairat or Pafos and all these sort of teams. So the level of Champions League maybe is not necessarily the level of Champions League that we would have seen even 3 years ago, because it's the expanded league phase now instead of the group stage. So maybe Atalanta, there are players here good enough. All they have to do is finish in the top 24. So that is achievable. So yeah, Club Brugge, though, they had a great performance in their first game. 4 different goal scorers for Brugge against Monaco. So that shows that they do have the depth themselves, maybe at this level of a Champions League, this modern Champions League. They've been scoring plenty of goals in Belgium as well. They've 2 or more goals in each of their last 4 games in all competitions. Although they needed a stoppage time winner at the weekend to win, but a win is a win, and the 2 goals is 2 goals. They drew 5-5 last Wednesday in one of their matches against Westerlo. So Atalanta, like Tom said, we're still trying to figure out what's going on with this Ivan Juric. Atlanta, what kind of performances they're going to put on a week-to-week basis. They keep having high-scoring matches. They're winning them 4-1. They're losing them 4-0. They're winning them 3-0. Ignore the match against Juventus at the weekend. That was always going to be a tight affair. But yeah, there seems to be plenty of goals in this. It's hard to separate these sides. I like the look of Tom saying could be a draw in this one, but I think Club Brugge could score twice in this match. So total Brugge goals, so Club Brugge just to score over 1.5 goals by themselves is 2.75. I like the value in there because George Allen in the comments has said 2-2, so that would fit in with that. And my other tip would also fit in with that. Total goals over 2.75 in the match is 181.
Or both teams to score also. Someone is suggesting is 1.6. Both teams to score. Club Brugge keeps surprising us. I have no idea for this game. Draw for George, for 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, so should be closer than what the bookies expect. Juric is a pupil of Gasperini. That's why he took the job, but still we are unsure about his Atalanta, as we were completely sure that his Roma was rubbish, actually, but he's doing slightly better with Atalanta. Next game is a long trip to Almaty, Kairat, Real Madrid. Imagine if it's this far away that Real Madrid left at halftime in the derby to get on time to this game. They are already, of course, there in Kazakhstan. And Real Madrid was pitiful in the game against Atletico de Madrid, conceding so many chances. Heisen and Carreras were especially bad. So I guess things should change in Xabi Alonso's team. Also, it was a bad decision to include Bellingham. He's not fit 100%. And now Carvajal is also injured. Trent Alexander-Arnold is out. So probably Valverde has to play as a right back. But of course, it's not a big test in Almaty. I won't ask you many things about Kairat Almaty, or since they played Celtic, Ronan, you watched that game back in August.
As an Irishman, I'm always accused of being a Celtic fan by default, but my heart does not bleed for Celtic the same way as some other Irish people do. I prefer the League of Ireland rather than the Scottish Premier League, so I wasn't watching that one too closely. Although I'm a big fan of Liam Scales finally getting some plaudits for Celtic at the moment. But you kind of wonder what happened to Real Madrid at the weekend. You said maybe they left at half time. I think maybe some of the players were trying to figure out what they would do for the in-flight entertainment, trying to pick out which books and magazines they might go for, what films they could do, because it's a long trip to Almaty to play Kairat. But Kairat, they could score some goals in this league phase. They've already scored against Sporting Club de Portugal, and if they were to score against Real Madrid, to score once is 2.25. So if you think that Kairat could score, it's always worth a look. Real Madrid to score over 2.5 goals is 1.57. So Real Madrid have to score 4 goals to get the same value as Kairat to score once. Brazilian forward Edmilson, he's played in the lower division in Portugal. Then he was in Slovenia, where he won the league and the cup. And now he's in Kazakhstan, and he scored in that game against Sporting, and he has 3 goals in 6 games in the league. He doesn't start every game, but if he was to start this game, he could be worth a look as a 6.5 anytime goal scorer, because he is their goal scorer. Yeah, when he plays. But yeah, if you want, that's all I know about Kairat. So I just go and move on to Real Madrid. Real Madrid, they get lots of penalties. They are going to play against a team that are going to defend for large parts of the match, are going to be under pressure. This was a bet that came through on Friday, Werder Bremen against Bayern Munich. I said Bayern Munich would get a penalty. They did. Harry Kane scores lots of penalties. Bayern get lots of penalties. Kylian Mbappe gets lots of penalties for Real Madrid. So I'm going for Madrid to score a penalty at 3.40.
Well, I remember Real Madrid conceding goals even against Sheriff Tiraspol some time ago. Mbappe to score, Tom, could be almost as a safe bet. If there are certainties about this Real Madrid, it's Mbappe.
Yeah, and I think he will play. The only conversation really when it comes to Mbappe to any time score or even first goal scorer, which is worth some money for this one, is that does Xabi Alonso rotate Real Madrid? He didn't used to rotate Bayer Leverkusen very much, but of course it wasn't this level and it wasn't this weaken opponent. And so I don't quite know yet whether he's going to be making massive rotations. Plus, as we've mentioned, the injuries to Alexander-Arnold, 𝐿𝐴𝐴, I mean, 𝗀𝗏𝗏's got to move and blah, blah, blah. So it's not the deepest squad ever as well. So I kind of expect it to be quite strong. And your point on Bellingham is really interesting because, like, you obviously wouldn't risk him again here. I was quite surprised they played in the weekend because I thought this would be his reintroduction game. You get 60 minutes, 70 minutes against a low-level opposition. So to play him for as long as they did, was it 70 minutes or so in the derby? All very strange. Maybe the first mistake that Alonso has made since going to Real Madrid. So look, I think off the back of the poor performance second half and the defeat, and the fact that players are sort of coming back from injury and lots of players are injured, so unavailable, I think it will be quite strong. And I think Real Madrid will have a cancerous victory in this game. So look, to win, obviously you take that at 1.1. If you bung it in with a massive ACCA, that might be worthwhile. Beyond that, you've got to go for a big scoreline if you're going to back Real Madrid or back this game at all. First decent handicap is minus 3.5, 2.75, 4-0. Maybe I kind of see him getting 2, maybe 3 and closing this game out. 3-0 on its own is 6.5, which is, you don't usually see that. But this could, if Real Madrid really wanted it, they could win this 10-0. I think they're going to score 2 or 3 and close it down. And we're going to see a selection of changes for like the second half, final 20, something like that. Mbappe, the only value is first goal at 3.25. But also Vinny first goal was 4.33, which I thought was quite interesting. It's not quite there this season for whatever reason. I know he scored a couple of weeks ago, but struggled in the derby, has struggled to find a place in this new-look team, hasn't looked happy, hasn't seemed that consequential. So he might need a game like this to really reinvigorate himself. So Vinny first goal of 4.3 I thought was quite nice. But you're going to need to, if you bet on this game, bundle a bunch of stuff together. So minus 2.5 and Mbappe and a clean sheet and win both halves. Put it all together. I'm still not sure it's worth betting big money on, but there you go.
Well, Arnaldo's Real to rotate the lineup. They have Villarreal at the weekend. It's a tough game on Saturday. So perhaps in the second half, we can see more rotations. We can see Rodrigo, Mastantuono, Brahim. That should play some minutes. Real to score over 2.5 goals. Mbappe to score 2 or more goals for Omoyoma, Levy, most cards for Kairat, Almaty. This is the game played farther east in the history of the Champions League, by the way. And now we go to the other team in Madrid, Atletico de Madrid. Eintracht, happiness is at the other side of the city, unfortunately for myself. Atletico really happy after a bad start of the season. Is the first eye-catching result, especially aggressive, in my opinion, was the key of success in that game. And probably if the chances were going to finish in Julian's boots instead of Sorloth, we could have seen even more goals for Atletico de Madrid. Many things worked out. And now they are hoping for the first win in the Champions League since they lost at Anfield, although in that game they competed pretty well despite conceding 2 goals in the first 10 minutes. And Eintracht is a really entertaining team. We saw it against Galatasaray, conceding many chances, scoring 5. And what to say about this weekend? 4-6, a tennis result. In the Bundesliga, Tom, perhaps we see more goals because this Atletico de Madrid is slightly more entertaining this season.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't caught up with Gladbach Frankfurt yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that after this because the scoreline looks wild. The Union Berlin game last week was excellent, and for a neutral who doesn't care. So if you watch any Eintracht Frankfurt game right now, you're going to get goals. And that's the same with Atleti. Like every game past 4 have been both teams to score. Only the Villarreal game, they kept a clean sheet in the last 5 in all competitions. That doesn't surprise me, really. Like a central defensive pairing of Clément Lenglet and Lenormand is not good enough, right? These are not... I think Lenormand's okay. I think he's a decent player, 7 out of 10 player. But I've watched Clément Lenglet fail for years and years and years. He's a bit part player at every single club he's been loaned to for the last 5 years. He is a real mid player. And what's interesting about Simeone at this moment is that we're all talking about his future. We're all talking about succession planning. We're talking about, has he stayed on too long? That's the constant conversation. He's fallen out with Alvarez and all that sort of stuff. But you saw in the second half, in the derby at the weekend, they can still snap it on. They can still go full tilt, Simeone, ultra aggression, and overcome, as they did Real Madrid at the weekend. And I think they can and will do it this game as well in midweek. I think Julian Alvarez is exceptional. And I think maybe the conversation might be about, are we going to do 2 or 3 more years of Simeone, or do we build a team around Alvarez the next 2 or 3 years? That's a conversation maybe for further down the line. But he is the exceptional player in this team right now. It isn't Griezmann anymore. It isn't anyone else. No one's even in the league that Alvarez is. And so build the team around him, get offensive, get aggressive, and score goals, work from second half at the weekend, and you can see it working here. Again, I defer to my colleagues' better knowledge on Eintracht Frankfurt, but I will say there's players in this team that I really like. There's an aggression about them, a thrilling counter-attacking style to the goals they've scored in recent times. So, look, I think both teams will score in this game. I would back Atleti because they're the home team, and I think Julian Alvarez is as close to world-class as Atleti have had for a long, long time. So Atleti and over 2.5 goals is 2.2. Over 3.5 goals in the game is 3.5. Like that, plus Julian Alvarez anytime at 2.1 is the individual player I pick out here. My only note of caution is when there's like a 5-1 and a 6-4, usually both teams then draw nil the next week because both managers don't like that. Coaches don't like that. That means the plans have gone awry. And so they both might go super defensive here. I'm hoping not. Goals at both ends and shade for Atleti.
Goals, Ronan, you are saying no with your head?
Yeah, there's got to be lots of goals. This Frankfurt team does not know how to defend. It does not know how to stop scoring. It just keeps scoring goals. Tom has said he wants to watch the highlights. Well, the Bundesliga put up a short highlights of this match. 10 goals in the Frankfurt win over Gladbach. 6-0 it was, and they came back to 6-4. The spoiler alert. But how long do you think that video is, the short video they put up? 1 minute and 7 seconds for 10 goals.
Save us time.
Yeah, so the longer one should be out today. But yeah, if you want to watch that match in 1 minute, work away. You will see all 10 goals in 1 minute, 7 seconds. But yeah, Frankfurt, they just cannot stop scoring. They've got 4 or more total match goals in every single game this season. So they are not playing a 0-0. It's not happening. Both teams to score, yes, has happened in each of their last 6 games. They scored 6 at the weekend, obviously. They conceded 4. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. 𝐿𝐭𝐻𝐿, he is Frankfurt's closest player to being world class. I think Julian Alvarez already is world class for Atletico, but he is Frankfurt's best player. He cannot stop scoring. He came in again at the weekend with another anytime goal scorer bet. I didn't go for it in this because I think maybe his time has to end sometime of scoring because he is not a forward, he is a midfielder. But Julian Alvarez is a fantastic bet to score anytime in this one. 210, like Tom said. I like total goals bets in this one. Total goals over 2.75 is 177. That's a bit safer than Tom's over 3.5. But the most obvious one for me has to be both teams to score, yes. 167.
Even against Galatasaray, they conceded so many chances. It was a crazy game. Frankfurt gonna win this one. Kingsley is telling us the odds are massive. If you are backing somehow Frankfurt, Atletico to win, and both teams to score, must win for Atletico. George is telling us it's going to be a great atmosphere. Always Frankfurt are traveling with a lot of supporters, so I'm sure we are going to see a great atmosphere at the Metropolitano. Perhaps also we see a slightly colder atmosphere probably in Norway. I can imagine that in the Bodo Glimt Tottenham, first time we see the Champions League music in this stadium, really in the north of Europe, but it's nothing new for Tottenham. They went there last season and they won in the road to Bilbao in the Europa League. Spurs, it looks like they are suffering more this season against weak teams like Wolves or Bournemouth at home than against big teams when they can counter-attack. And Bodo Glimt had a very good debut in the Champions League, Ronan, because they were 2-0 down in Prague and they ended up drawing. If you think Tottenham are winning, and they should, I think the odds 2.2 are great.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, Bodo Glimt, they've had back-to-back wins on the road against Slavia and Rosenborg. But yeah, it's always an intimidating place to go. It's always a cold place to go. But at least it's in September rather than later on in the winter for Tottenham. That's probably the only bonus they have at the moment. Tottenham, they had kept a clean sheet, 1-0 over Villarreal, so they have been keeping plenty of clean sheets this season. They've only had both teams to score twice this season since the Super Cup, if we don't count the Super Cup as being this season, but Brighton 2 weeks ago and then Wolves at the weekend. But the rest of the matches have been both teams to score no, surprisingly. And Spurs that kept clean sheets against Burnley, Man City, West Ham, Villarreal and Doncaster. I know Bodo Glimt is a difficult place to go to, but maybe Spurs could get another clean sheet. And if they do, that's 375. So I do like to look at that one. Could be a 0-0 here. Could be another draw for Bodo Glimt. I'm sure they wouldn't be too disappointed with that. But both teams to score no for Spurs again for, what is it, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 time this season. Both teams to score no will be 255.
Not a goal feast for Ronan. 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, correct score 1-2 in your opinion, Tom?
Yeah, I don't have any fear about Tottenham here, frankly. I think Ronan's point about the weather is well taken. I think it's nice weather. It's perfectly fine. It might be long sleeves, but you'll be fine this time of year. January, February, we're having a different conversation. But going on Bodo Glimt's game against Slavia Prague, I thought they could have easily been thrashed 5 or 6-0 before the late comeback. I thought Slavia Prague were the better team, created more chances, deserved to be 2-0 up, and they put on this fantastic comeback in the final 15. But from the evidence of that one game, they obviously concede chances. From the evidence of their form, they obviously concede in every game. And so I think Tottenham can go there and win reasonably comfortably. My only doubt on that is ongoing issue with Tottenham, which we saw against Wolverhampton Wanderers at the weekend. We've seen repeatedly this season that there's a lack of creativity in this team. They are very solid and very well organised. And Thomas Frank is a big fan of long balls, work the channel, long throw, be good from corners, all that sort of stuff. But beyond the West Ham game, offensively, have they been impressive? I don't think so. There is something quite blunt about Kudus, Simons and Richarlison. You can see why they wanted 𝐬𝐭𝐴. Losing Maddison, I think, is really significant. They've got a lot of up and down fast runners, keep the ball. And so that's my only concern. In a game like this, against what I would expect to be quite a low block opposition, do they have the guile to create? And that says to me we're going to get quite a low scoring, quite unentertaining, and potentially Spurs just nicking a win from a corner, a 93rd minute Palhinha goal again, but this time to win. The odds for Tottenham to win, it's good, 2.2, take that. I'm going to build on the clean sheet that Ronan said, and Tottenham win to 0 at 4.5. Really like that, run away with that. And I wouldn't necessarily suggest an exact scoreline, but I did think 1-0 to Spurs at 10 was really interesting. So that might be worth a couple of quid. I think a low scoring, unwatchable Spurs win away from home. That's what I'm going for.
Okay, you convinced me not to watch this one. Gundal, Tottenham always disappoint. Not this season. They are doing well. Trust Thomas Frank. Tottenham win for me. Someone is also saying Bodo are the kings of artificial grass. They are going to score at least 1 goal, David is telling us. Well, Chelsea, Benfica, how we cannot talk about Jose Mourinho in this game, going back to Stamford Bridge, going back to the Premier League with Benfica. Remember that he replaced Bruno Lage after the defeat against Karabakh. And since then, they beat Gil Vicente. They drew with Rio Ave. Yeah, not impressive results, not impressive teams. And now it's going to be much more difficult. But Chelsea have had a terrible week. Despite buying all the good players from Brighton, they ended up losing to Brighton, and they ended up getting red cards. Tom, if they always play with 10 men, it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah, I think that's a good point well made. And I think that even before that moment, that Chelsea were struggling against the Brighton team, who were outmatching them in every department. They were better defensively, they were better in midfield, and offensively, 𝐵𝗵 struggled in the game against his former teammates. Whether that was psychological or not, I don't know. But like there is just something missing at Chelsea right now. And I don't know how much the Club World Cup plays into it. I think we'll need to see how it plays out over the next few weeks. But they're getting little muscle injuries, groin strains. People look tired. I don't tend to buy too much into the argument players are playing too much. 60 games a year seems fine. You ain't that busy. But maybe I could be convinced by Chelsea here, in that they played very strong teams in knockout phases of the Club World Cup, and of course went on to win that competition. Since then, they've lost Cole Palmer at the start of the season to injury, then another injury. They've lost Liam Delap to a muscle injury. Tosin's got a calf problem. Colwell got a cruciate. I mean, I don't know how much it plays in, but they do look a little bit gassed for September. They look a bit like a team that have sort of qualified for Europe and have got 5 games to go in the season with nothing ready to play for, or like mid-table mediocrity. That there is something else missing in terms of energy and in terms of quality as well, right? They spent a heck of a lot of money on players, Chelsea, and it was, I think, was it 𝗏𝗏 and 𝐶𝐴LLBA, centre half at the weekend? I'm not sure that's as good as like Wolverhampton Wanderers have got at the moment. Like, I'm not even sure. I might even pick 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐬 in my back line over that pair. And that's a real insult in case you don't get that reference. So, like, I think defensively, you know, the trouble being a player commodity trading business and not a football club is that sometimes you get into this scenario in that the team doesn't look right. The team doesn't look settled. You're trying to bring in Santos. You're trying to bring in 𝗏𝗏. You're getting players sent off. The manager's making weird decisions like he did against Man United, taking off all the attack because we lost one player against the crappiest Man U ever. Ugh, you know, weird decisions from Enzo Maresca. So it's a big game, this. And I haven't caught up with the Benfica matches thus far. You mentioned the kind of low-grade opposition they've had, but I do know Pavlidis scores. I think he could be, like, he's going to do the Mourinho formation. He's going to do the Mourinho style. He's going to do 2 defensive midfielders. He's going to do wingers that get up and down. It's going to be 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐬 on the counter, crossing into Pavlidis, who holds it up when they go long. Right? We all know what a Jose Mourinho team is. We've all sort of been raised on it. So they could be dangerous here, depending on how much they've had sort of Mourinho lessons to this point. And I just think the draw at 4.25 is really, really interesting. If this is a solid Mourinho Benfica, and look, he started fine. They're not the worst squad ever. And they've had a real negative manager in Bruno Lage just leave the club. So one assumes they're well drilled defensively. You couple that up with this sort of mishmash, constantly trying to put your finger in the dike Chelsea that Maresca has currently. No one's really excelling in terms of form. And the defense looks really weak. I do think there's every chance of a scrape Benfica goal, followed by Chelsea having to try and come back into the game. So I think it screams 1-1. I think draw is really, really nice. If you go for a Chelsea win, go by a narrow margin. Chelsea by 1 goal is 3.75. But 1-1 or 2-1 Chelsea is what I'm looking at here.
We saw this kind of game in the FIFA Club World Cup, although at the end, in the extra time, Chelsea won 4-1 on aggregate. Ronan.
Yeah, I think Tom is missing one key factor. This is the world champions you're talking about. Donald Trump's world champions is who Jose Mourinho has to travel to face. And Jose Mourinho's Benfica did not look fantastic, despite winning at the weekend on Friday against 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐬. They had less possession and fewer shots, but still won. So that is kind of a Mourinho masterclass if you've seen one. But it's not quite Chelsea. It's not quite the world champion Chelsea. I know they have a terrible backline. Their signings didn't make sense this summer. They did not seem to improve with a lot of the signings they've made. I'm glad Tom didn't say Matt Doherty would get into the Chelsea backline, because that would have been a step too far. But yeah, he picked the right player there. But I think Chelsea, they just have enough about them. And Jose Mourinho, I know it's Mourinho, but he hasn't really had all that much time to kind of mold this Benfica team into what we will see down the line, maybe in a month's time, or maybe in 6 or 8 weeks' time, or after the international break. They'll probably look more like a Mourinho team. So I think Chelsea to win at 167 doesn't look too bad. That's just a straight bet. But me and Tom are going to cancel each other out, because I'm going for Chelsea Asian handicap -1 at 2.08.
Both teams to score. Carbonaro, Pavlidis shot on target. Pavlidis to score, maybe. Also Chelsea to win, and both teams to score. Everyone is thinks Pavlidis is going to score, like Mbappe style. A lot of confidence in Pavlidis. Next one, Galatasaray. Liverpool first, the 5th of the season, or second, if we count also the other one against Crystal Palace in the Community Shield. Some issues we've been seeing throughout the season. I think with this Liverpool, far from being brilliant, far from the level they showed at the beginning of last season, and conceding also so many chances in the last game in Selhurst Park. But Galatasaray, if we judge them for the game we saw in Frankfurt, Ronan, they were absolutely terrible. They were so crap in defense, conceding so many chances that if they do exactly the same against Liverpool, they are going to get destroyed.
Yeah, this is a Liverpool team with strikers that are capable of scoring. 𝐿𝐿 will be back. Obviously, he missed the weekend. That clever booking that he got in the cup cost him the appearing at the weekend, and maybe he could have made a difference against Crystal Palace. I like the way you're not considering the Community Shield a competitive match. You're trying to take that assist away from Florian Wirtz. You're trying to say he is 007, like all the memes are saying. You've taken away that assist from. But this Galatasaray team, they did not look good against Frankfurt. But the one thing they did do was to score first. And Liverpool win here, it was 170, but Liverpool to win from behind is 8. I think there is every chance, because having seen Liverpool, having watched Liverpool this year and last year, they are very good at coming from behind. They sometimes can make kind of uncharacteristic mistakes, or maybe they're characteristic mistakes at this stage because they make them from time to time. They're not as defensively solid as they have been at the back, probably because they have like 3 fit centre backs. They have makeshift right backs. They don't look as good maybe as defensively as they did this time last season. So I think Galatasaray could score if they were to score first. Liverpool to win from behind is 8, and then that ties into Mo Salah to get the winner. Mo Salah last goal score is 575. I'm writing the script for this one. This better all come true. But if a bit safer, like I said, Liverpool to win 167 is a bit safer. And Salah anytime goal score. I know he isn't having his best season, but he still scores from time to time. He still scores a lot of goals. Salah anytime goal scorer is 220.
A bit safer would be betting on late goals, Tom, if Liverpool are involved.
That's true, but they only lose when they face Crystal Palace, so I wouldn't feel confident in Galatasaray beating them. Look, Liverpool are really interesting, right? Florian Wirtz again struggled at the weekend. I think despite his price tag, I think it's time to not move on from him permanently, but for the time being, find a different way to construct the midfield behind the forward, because he's just not cutting it in the Premier League, which makes me think maybe you play him in the Champions League, you don't play him in the Premier League, you give him a few minutes in a few games where they're winning comfortably, which hasn't really happened this season, and give him some more time to adapt. But I think in a game like this, he could be really important for Liverpool, and it could be a really good confidence booster. I think they'll start 𝐿𝐿, not Isak, because you could see evidently how crucial he has been to the Reds' attack in the game against Palace this weekend. Isak doesn't look fit, doesn't look ready. There was a lovely little dribble in the second half where he made the penalty area, then kind of fluffed his shot right at the end. But looks like a new player who's not fully fit in a new team, and that's going to be that way for a while. Maybe that's the excuse we give to Florian Wirtz as well. And defensively, like they invested this summer in Frimpong and 𝐿𝐿, but the trouble is, I think 𝐿𝐿 is a big problem. 𝐿𝐿 is one of the most overrated defenders in the Premier League, maybe in European football. He's perfectly fine. He's a perfectly fine 6 out of 10, bulky, get your head to it sort of guy, but he's not brilliant. He isn't going to go down in the halls and annals of the great Liverpool defenders. And I think it was significant they didn't reinvest in that area this summer. Your man got injured last week. Forgive me his name. I've forgotten his name now. The guy who got injured. Leone, thank you. I don't know how much Leone was going to play as such a young player, but even that leaves you then 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜𝐭𝐝. I'm worried about that for Liverpool because I just don't think there's a great deal of depth there. And if something happens to Van Dijk, heaven forbid, imagine a backline of 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐿 and Gomez trying to win the Premier League or the Champions League. You ain't going to do it. So that's glaring for Liverpool. And I think a couple of the offensive players haven't quite struck this season. So this makes it a really interesting game for me. I think there's going to be a need for a response from their first loss of the season proper at the weekend against Palace. And I think we'll get it. Take the Liverpool win at 1.7. Throw that in your ACCA. You'll make some money. I think 𝐿𝐿 starts. I think he's probably the most important player at Liverpool right now. Any time for him is 2. I do fancy Galatasaray for a goal. I think with Zane and Yilmaz and probably Icardi and 1 or 2 other players, I think they've got goal threat in behind that will catch Liverpool out. Love Ronan's bet of Gala scoring first and Liverpool going on to win. I think that's really likely, but he's taken that. So I'll take Liverpool and both teams to score at 2.75. I think 2-1, 3-1, maybe 4-1 Liverpool, but certainly a Gala goal.
𝐿𝐿 to score JC. Arnaldo is in 007 to score. So Florian Wirtz, goals, corners, cards. Turkey versus England is always on fire. So plenty of goals and a hot game. I think we used to talk about the Turkish hell and so on. I think these times are past, and it's not that difficult going to play to Turkey as it was some years ago. And now we go to Milano. Inter, Slavia Prague. Inter recovering little by little from the defeats at the beginning of the season, including the one against Juventus. Still far from being brilliant, but they won in Amsterdam and they beat Sassuolo and Cagliari. Also in Serie A, even more importantly, Lautaro scored, and the team needs Lautaro. And you mentioned, Tom, that Slavia should have won their game against Bodo Glimt.
Yeah, I thought they were good that day, and I think they're a good team, and I think they're a team with great European pedigree, and they've got every chance they can land a blow in this game and make the top 24 in the Champions League and get themselves through. I mean, look, in terms of Inter, I think the Derby d'Italia was a shock. I think it was a shock to the manager. I think it was a shock to supporters. I think it was a shock to all of us, really. The way they lost the game, the style of game, and there are massive doubts about 𝐿𝐿, whether he's going to last the season, whether he's the right man for the job, whether it was a bad appointment, all that sort of stuff. And I think it's evident in the ensuing games, including the victory over Ajax immediately afterwards. Solidity is the best policy, which has been something Inter have been built on for a long, long time. And it's Bastoni and it's 𝐿𝐭𝐿 looking slightly better. And it's Mkhitaryan back in midfield with 𝐿𝐿 and Barella, who's fantastic, as we know. Like, they just, everyone's gone 10 yards further back, and everyone's gone slightly less daring, and everyone's doing basic jobs they've been doing at this club for the last 3 or 4 seasons. And I think you can see that in the performances and the results. And plus, you've got into Ram. I think he's an excellent battering ram striker, scoring headers, scoring corners, scoring basic goals. I think it's been a real reset at Inter since the Derby d'Italia, and you can see it in results, and I think you'll see it here. Again, I don't expect a game that's going to be wildly watchable here, but I do think it'll be Inter with 70% of the ball, Slavia Prague more than good enough to low block and to tackle and to work, and they'll treat this game with the respect it deserves. And they do have players on the counter who could potentially, I think, is it Pavard on the right-hand side? It's a good player. I think it's every chance he could be dangerous. He's got pace, he's got drive, he's got skill. And you know when they play the 3 at the back and they've got the wingers, there's space in behind. So I wouldn't discount a goal from Slavia Prague totally, but I think Inter's solidity from the Derby d'Italia convinces me they win this without conceding. So Inter win to 0, 2.25. Group bet of simple scorelines, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. Doubles your money at 3. I don't think it's going to be 3-0, but it just comes in all groups. So 1-0 or 2-0 I can see quite likely. And if there's going to be a goal, you mentioned Lautaro scoring. That's really important. He's got to come back to top form. But it's Marcus Thuram's team now, I think. Him and 𝐿𝐿 are the most important players. Him anytime is 2.2. I think they'll get wide. They'll cross the ball. I would back him to score in this game. I wouldn't discount a header as well. I think it's going to be 1-0 Inter, frankly.
Inter to win 3-1, correct score 3-0. That's too optimistic, in my opinion, for what we've seen from Inter so far.
Yeah, Inter to win 3-1 would be a terrific match to watch, which we weren't really predicting from this, especially not having watched Inter, like I was saying, in the last few weeks. That's kind of what they kind of turned themselves into maybe a more defensive team since that derby loss. So yeah, the Slavia Prague, on the other hand, they are a team who don't lose. Amazingly, they have their last defeat in all competitions, including friendly matches, so all through the summer. May 18th was the last time Slavia Prague lost any match of any kind. So mark your calendars. It's going to be the 30th of September. That's when they're going to lose their next game, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to lose to Inter. They threw it away against Bodo Glimt. They have conceded in 6 of their last 8 games, despite not losing. They continue to concede goals. They continue to concede disappointing goals, frustrating goals. Inter have scored at least twice in their last 4 games. They've scored in every single game this season. Inter win is only 137, so you cannot really look at that. You put in your ACCA, of course, but you have to look at some other value. And if you look at Inter's last 3 games against Ajax, Sassuolo and Cagliari, they were winning at half-time in each one of those and went on to win. So home, or they didn't. The home is what I'm looking at. They are a team that wins the first half and can win the match. And that could fit into Tom's 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 quite nicely, because win 1-0 at half-time and hold on and win 1-0 would be perfect.
Italian style. Di Marco, one shot on target is so risky betting on Di Marco. Such an unreliable player. Slavia to shock with a draw. George is telling us, I wouldn't be surprised actually if we see an upset here. Next we go to Marseille, Olympique Marseille, Ajax. Great start of the season for OM with 𝐬𝐿𝐴𝐵 on the bench. Remember, beat on last Monday, PSG, and at the weekend they won in Strasbourg, which is not an easy pitch to go and win, with Murillo scoring the late winner. But also we saw a really good version at the Bernabeu with the counter-attack. And Ajax lost to Inter, as we were mentioning, with headers. We saw this game back in 2023 in the Europa League, and we saw 6 goals and 7 goals in those games. I would be happy to see this kind of performance, Ronan.
Yeah, we were 3-3 in Amsterdam, and Marseille won 4-3 at home. So hopefully more the same, please. We would love that. And this match is kind of one of these immovable force, unsolvable object matches, because Marseille have won every home game this season. The PSG match, like you mentioned, they beat Lorient 4-0 and Paris FC 5-2, whereas Ajax, they've drawn all their away games. They've drawn in every away game this season, but although 2 of them were 2-2, so hopefully that means goals in this match, because these are 2 teams that have fine attacks that are capable of scoring. Correct score 2-2. If you think Ajax can go for a third 2-2 this season, is 15. It won't be as entertaining as the 3-3 and 4-3 that we saw a couple of years ago, but it would do. We'd be happy enough with that. Both teams to score, yes, is much safer, obviously, at 174. But I'm just going for total goals over 3 in this one at 195. And as always, if you're betting on exact total goals, make sure you get your money back from your bookies if it's exactly 3.
Goals, Greenwood. We have to talk about him. No, you don't like Greenwood?
No, he's a terrible person. Why would I like him? He's an awful man.
As a player.
No, well, look, I think this is the best Marseille in some years, right? This is the best Marseille, let's say 5 years for argument's sake, but in some time. Roberto De Zerbi is an excellent manager. I think he's playing a really aggressive 3-4-3. We've seen that bear fruit in big games, including the victory against Paris Saint-Germain. Look, I think Greenwood's a fantastic footballer, and I think he gives great balance on the side. I think he's got a great left foot. I think he's got an acceptable right foot. I think you can play him central. You can make him be the assist maker, make him be the goal scorer. The front three has great balance with him in it. I think the signing of Emerson from West Ham is inspired. I think that it's almost like Graham Potter had no idea what he was doing and allowed Emerson to leave, even though I think Diouf has replaced him. It's all right, but like Emerson's a good pro. Carries the team upfield. I think he's an excellent footballer. He obviously gets on well with 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐵 behind him, another one who's coming from West Ham. On the other side, 𝐬𝐿 on the right wing has worked with Pavard behind him. So look, great balance. I don't know what Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is at this point, but if he can be a last 15 minutes player for Marseille this season, be like the vet who contributes, that's a great asset to have. So I'm really high on Marseille. You've got a really good manager, good goalkeeper, good defense, good attack, good midfield. You can't say fairer than that. And it's been a really encouraging start to the season for them. And this Ajax team, with the best will in the world, there's no superstars in it. I think Johnny Heitinga is a really good coach. I interviewed him a couple of times when he was working under David Moyes a few years ago. I think he's going to be a good manager, and I think he's a hard-working manager and a detailed manager. I think there's every chance that his plan for this game is going to be well thought through and well executed. But going to Marseille to get a result at this point, I think is a near impossibility. So take the Marseille win at 1.56. I do think both teams score, only following recent patterns of both teams' results. You get that at 2.88. Nice little group bet here of 2-1, 3-1, or 4-1. It comes in at 4. Again, I think 4-1 is a bit generous, but I can see this being 2-1. Aubameyang comes on, nabs a third for 3. I think Marseille have really good pacing behind. And at 2-1, if Ajax press forward, there's not a great did a pace facing their own goal, so I can see that happening. But 2-1 on its own, which it screams to me, is 8. So take that.
Indeed, both teams to score an over 2.5 goals for Michael. Also, both teams to score for sure from George. Marcel to win an over 1.5 goals. So everyone agrees. Is that a Man City shirt, Tom? I don't think so, right?
This is my Oasis shirt from the concert at the weekend that I bought myself, but it's kind of a Man City shirt, I guess, unfortunately.
And the last game, your Asian handicap game, Pafos, Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich thrashing every single team this season. The numbers are just astonishing. 20 goals scored in just 5 games in the Bundesliga. Harry Kane is scoring plenty of goals. We know Pafos resisted, Tom, like the movie in the Thermopylas at Athens. But it's going to be much harder to do it against the Bavarian team.
Yeah, look, huge credit for the Olympiacos result, right? It was excellent, and it was a huge occasion, and no one saw them getting a point in the group, so, hats off to them. But, yeah, your point is the right one. This is not that. This is not that. Like, the only thing is whether Bayern, because this is such lowly opposition, make some changes, and they start Nicholas Jackson, and they start some youth team players that we haven't seen any of this season. I guess Ulreich will be in goal, rolling back the years, but I've been saying that for a decade. 𝐬𝐿 can't play, so Ulreich comes in. Is this 2012? Very strange. But they look so good. Bayern looks so good. Kane is a phenomenon. The trio behind him, Luis Diaz, signing him was inspired. There's this. I can't think of many players that have gone at the real peak of their powers from like a Liverpool to a Bayern, but that's what's happened here. He looks amazing. Everything about him looks great. Defensively solid. 𝐬𝐿 looks fine, and Harry Kane looks amazing. The only thing would be if they make the rotations, but I'm assuming they won't, mainly because Harry Kane is a notorious flat track bully. He loves to pad out those numbers against rubbish opposition. This is the kind of England-Moldova game that Harry Kane has excelled in through his entire career. So hates to be dropped. I don't think he will be. And I think that means they go on to win really, really comfortably here. Obviously, they look at the handicaps. Minus 2.5 is 2.1. I think that comes in easy. Minus 3.5 is 3.5. I think that comes in as well. And then look at the Harry Kane goal scoring market. Scoring at least 2, I think, is a pretty easy bet here. Look at the Kane hat trick. The only doubt is whether he doesn't play. And of course, in games like this, look for a Bayern penalty as well, which Kane will score.
Plenty of goals, Ronan. This is a safe bet always when we see Bayern Munich.
Yeah, they've had over 3 match goals in every game they played this season. They've scored 3 goals themselves in each of their last 7 games, 3 or more goals, and they've scored 4 in both of their last 2 games. So Pafos, it is not going to be 0-0 again for them this week. I know I mentioned in the previous episode that they had kind of kept scores down in their qualifying campaign, but they're not really going to do it. Here, Harry Kane is an anytime goal scorer. Tom didn't mention that one. That 153 actually isn't too bad, because considering he was 133 to score against Werder Bremen at the weekend, and you would imagine Pafos are an easier opponent to play, although Werder Bremen at the moment are terrible, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, 153 doesn't look too bad. Tom mentioned Bayern to score a penalty. Yep, always likely. That's 375. And then the goal market is also where you have to look. Over 3.25 total goals in this match is 180, a bit lower. And then, yeah, this is almost guaranteed to happen, I'd imagine. Bayern to win both halves is 2.
Well, let's see if Pafos keeps surprising everyone, as Tony is saying. If they get a result against Bayern Munich, it will be indeed a massive result, but it will be almost like a miracle. Well, guys, this is it. This is our analysis of the Champions League games on Tuesday in the channel. In a few hours, you will have also the games that are gonna be played on Wednesday. And now let me remind you that we have our tipster competitions indeed going on. So very soon we are gonna start with October. So these guys have a great chance to win cash prizes, since we are only 2 days left for September. And now also you can participate in Rivals and create your own tipster competition. Let's go with our safe bets and ACCAs. Last time we did a video together, you were spot on, guys, with these bets. So let's try again. Ronan, safe bet?
My safe bet is Inter to win. So Inter Milan to win at 136.
Tom?
Yeah, a lot of safe bets here, I think. I thought about doing Bayern. I thought about doing Inter. I thought about doing Liverpool, but I'll take Real Madrid to win, which is like, I think I owe you money if that happens. But it's safe, okay?
1.11. Risky, eh, Tom? Risky.
Hey, this is a zero-sum game. The bet either comes in or it doesn't, yeah? That's what you asked me. That's what you get.
And now your ACCA. Is this game included?
No, because it's not worth it. But I have put in a nice little treble here, a double your money treble, which I think is quite interesting. I like Marseille. I think they beat Ajax. I think they're a good team this year. Inter, I think, will win against Slavia Prague. Liverpool is slightly daring at the moment, considering how poor they were, but they go to Gala and win. For double your money, I think that's a pretty decent treble.
Yeah, it is. It is. Ronan?
I have almost the same bet. I have gone for Inter and Liverpool both to win, like Tom has, but I've gone for Bayern to win both halves in their match to take mine to 454.
I actually thought we were going to do this video from Cyprus, but it didn't happen at the end, so we can analyze in a deeper way our Pafos. Well, guys, this is it. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I learned a lot. Hopefully I make some money. Thanks to you, and I see you very soon. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone, for watching.